Good morning, everyone. My name is Bruno from Bruno Simao Attorneys. I'm a specialist property attorney, and I'm here today just to answer a couple of questions regarding seller finance, more particularly a customs brief. This is based on some questions that I've seen recently on social media relating to this topic, and I thought I'd just help out and give a bit of my insight. Now, seller finance is quite simple. It's using the seller in order to finance the purchase of the property. This is generally done in one of two ways. The first, most common way that most of you know is an installment sale agreement, where the seller retains ownership of the property and you as purchaser simply pay the seller off on a monthly basis. And the other model is a normal sale, but in this instance a customs brief, which is a mortgage, is registered in favor of the seller, giving them security over the property in case you default on your repayments. Now, the pros and cons of all of this are really dependent on whether you're the seller or the purchaser. From the seller's perspective, I from experience, cannot advise that this is a good model. Reason for this is the seller loses his ownership over the property and gives that up in favor of the purchaser. Yes, he does have a mortgage bond, but he would still have to foreclose on the property and sell it on auction if the purchaser defaults. Whereas with an installment sale agreement, that wouldn't be the case, as he would retain ownership over the property. Another pitfall from a seller's perspective is the fact that most sellers want to charge interest on the balance of the purchase price, and unfortunately, if you do so and you're not geared for it, you may fall within the ambit of the National Credit Act, which may require that you register as a credit provider and follow certain prerequisites when making this loan effectively. In that instance, unless you are geared for this type of model, I wouldn't recommend it, or at least for a seller at least. From a purchaser's perspective, entirely different story. In an installment sale agreement, a purchaser does certainly have some protection, but this particular model allows the purchaser to take ownership of the property. And if it can be negotiated as such, I would definitely recommend that this be the first port of call that a purchaser actually goes for, as opposed to an installment sale agreement, simply because it takes ownership of the property. I've worked on a case recently relating to this very topic, so it does work. There are very few pitfalls from a purchaser's perspective, mainly in the sense that, well, on the deal that we worked on, the seller required some money up front, and that was the motivating factor. You will find generally that sellers don't particularly like this option, because they know if an installment sale agreement exists, they retain ownership. Why would they want to go for this option when they lose the greatest security that they have? But in this instance with my client, the client did offer a sum of money up front on condition that transfer be passed and a mortgage bond be registered in the seller's favor. And the seller was motivated to do so. And in that instance, the client took on the property, had the security, started repayment on a monthly basis, and negotiated the deal as such that the person currently on the property is renting it out for far more than what he's required to pay the seller. And the numbers worked, and it was a good deal, and from the purchase perspective, very little risk. Yeah, I hope this was helpful, and yeah, please feel free to contact me at any time if you have any questions about this topic.